Mr. Favor, do you believe that you witnessed an additional object under the water in relation to your encounter?
I will say we did not see an object. There was something there to cause the whitewater, and when we turned around, it was gone. So there was something there that obviously moved.
Okay, it was not the same object though that you were looking at, correct?
No, we actually joked that the Tic Tac was communicating with something when we came back, and because the whitewater disappeared.
Not a funny joke at all.
We were in another instance. We're told about the capabilities of a jamming during viewing of when there were some people chasing some of these objects. Did you experience any of that jamming or interrupting your radar or weapons system?
My crew that launched after we landed experienced significant jamming to the APG-73 radar, which was what we had on board, which is a mechanically scanned, very high-end system prior to the APG-79. And yes, it did pretty much everything you could do: range, velocity, aspect, and then it spit the lock, and the targeting pod is passive. That's what we were able to get the video.
Are you aware of?
Boy, that sounds familiar. Having done that at Comp 2X's a lot, done that to Super Hornets and Hornets.
So the Tic Tac was the F-18A from...
Tic Tac was me. It was me
Mover.
at the Comp 2X.
This is the big reveal.
That's amazing. Dude, you're going to get 500,000 like that.
Troning.
Mover was
turns
the
out
Tic Tac.
Mover is the alien.
That email is Congress summoning you.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Hold on. For legal reasons, this is a joke.
Totally.
But I'm serious.
There are no
though.
jokes.
Yeah,
a
you're
lot
right.
of
We
what they're
carried a jammer
talking-
pod. That could do that.
Carry
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
We're doing this at Comp 2X's. There's other aircraft doing that. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of Trons out there.
But you
that
didn't
not
look like a Tic Tac.
necessarily-
You didn't look like it. I mean, you could
We have
fold
to-
the wings up on the old A
Gonky,
model. It'd be a little more Tic Tacky.
I know you're a hopeless romantic, dude, but we got to have the scientific method here, right? We have to say, most realistic, least realistic. Is most realistic, are the aliens here, or is it a Comp 2X with a lot of jammers out there in the space?
But Wombat will tell you, Comp 2X is pretty much like the crawling before you walk. Like it's.
I was there. No, I've done them as the.
I know,
regular.
but what I'm saying is, it's like, it's not full on. So they're not going to have it's not going to be Trons all the time. Like at level 11.
No, I agree. But I'm just saying there may be plausible explanations for some of the things that were observed. And that's why I say, can you correlate them and then provide data? That's all. I just think we should provide data. Wombat, you look like you're trying to either hold in something or,
like I said at the
back to
beginning,
previous question.
From being a kid until now, I believed in aliens. I stopped believing as soon as the government told me.
Continuing with.
This still goes on? We're still talking about this?
Oh, it gets good, man.
Oh, does it?
Are there common characteristics to the UAPs that have been cited by different pilots? And can you
Yes,
describe
cancer, Wombat.
what the convergence
I
of
didn't
descriptions
recognize
is?
the guy. I
Certainly.
wasn't saying anything.
We were primarily seeing dark gray or black cubes inside of a clear sphere.
I'm sorry, dark gray or black cubes?
Yes,
Well, now
inside
you're
of a
canceled.
clear sphere, where the apex or tips of the cube were touching the inside of that sphere. And that was primarily what was being reported when we were able to gain a visual tally of these objects. And that occurred over almost 8 years. And as far as I know, it still occurred.
Mr. Grush, what about you? What was your experience after you came forward?
Well, it's only been about 2 months or so, so I guess my experience has been overwhelming support from former colleagues of mine that have privately messaged me, and I do appreciate that. But I do have knowledge of active planned reprisal activity against myself and other colleagues, and it's very, very upsetting to me.
Coming from where?
Certain senior leadership at previous agencies I was associated with. And that's all.
A shocked face.
But I can provide more details in a closed environment.
Okay. Well, I hope you understand that there would be bipartisan rejection of any attempt to vilify.
See, okay, hold on. And then this goes to they are doing this dude a disservice, and he's doing himself a disservice. If this is the whistleblower thing, right? If he's got, hey, you guys need to look at this or else the world's going to end. Parading him out is not going to make this better.
Nope.
None of this is
Make it
helpful.
way worse.
I
Wait,
just that
for
I have
everybody
heartburn
involved.
with that because he does a News Nation interview and then goes in front of Congress and they do this big thing and then they ask him about the reprisal and it's like, look, they should be going, hey, how's this investigation going? Have we finished the reprisal investigation? Because we need to find out the legitimacy of this before we go public. That's all.
That's a good point.
Because if it turns out it's something else, it
Yeah.
devalues the whole thing. It devalues Farva, it devalues everybody. So
They 100% know that he's got a reprisal investigation going on because he's obviously told them before. He's made protected communications. Why are we going public right now when it's ongoing?
distraction.
Wombat, there. Another
Wombat,
conspiracy?
they would never distract us. The conspiracy
No.
is the conspiracy.
Never.
All right. So, Mr.
Roll it.
Those people.
And what is your general interpretation of these phenomena?
Are those
Or what
aliens
is
on
your
his do-rag?
current thinking of trying to make sense of them?
Well, I'll say, I'm not like a UFO fanatic. It's not me. But I will tell you that
are now.
what we saw with 4 sets of eyes over a 5-minute period,
That's too
still, there's nothing. We had nothing close to it. It was amazing to see. I told my buddy I wanted to fly it, but
That's a
it's
fighter
just an
pilot answer
incredible
right there.
technology.
Or Mr. Graves.
I go with that. Like if he's saying I'd want to fly this thing, that's a fighter pilot answer. But I can't really buy into he's been on all the alien shows and he's in front of Congress and now he's not a UFO guy. You're a UFO guy at this point. Because if you're not a UFO guy, you never talk to anybody about this after it happened.
Dude, he's a UFO guy because he saw a UFO. I mean, you would be too.
I'm right. I'm just saying let's call it what it is. At this point, you are a believer. You are a UFO guy. That's it. You don't go on the shows if you're not a UFO guy.
I'm going to remember this when you see a UFO and you go to Congress, just so you know.
No,
If
it'll be
I'm
all
flying
that. They won't
something-
talk about it by then. They don't care.
No,
it's only the
as
first
with
person
every-
that comes out.
As
Right?
with
The
everything
second
else, I will
person,
miss the boat.
the second person who lands an Airbus on the Hudson River doesn't even get a book deal, right? It's only the first person, period. So you're too late, mover. You got to think of something new. 15 minutes. It's the truth.
Flying spaghetti monster.
Can you please explain to me
Hello,
in
Luna.
detail the event that occurred at Vandenberg Air Force
Puppy
Base?
dog.
Certainly. In the 2003 timeframe, a large group of Boeing contractors were operating near one of the launch facilities at Vandenberg Air Force Base when they observed a very large 100-yard sided red square
Let's use metric.
approach
How big
the
is that?
base from the
Confused.
ocean and hover at low altitude over one of the launch facilities. This object remained for about 45 seconds or so before darting off over the mountains. There was a similar event within 24 hours later in the evening. This was a morning event, I believe 8:45 in the morning. Later in the evening, post-sunset, there were reports of other sightings on base, including some aggressive behaviors. These objects were approaching some of the security guards at rapid speeds before darting off. And this is information that was received through one of
She's
the
gone. She's had
witnesses
enough.
that
She
had
just
approached me
left.
at Americans for Safe Aerospace.
Was this documented in any official form, whether it was a police blotter?
Yes, they had official
No.
documentation
The
and
cops
records
would
from
be
the
like,
event that
civil
the
matter.
witness,
We're
held
not
in
writing
the
that
Okay,
report.
and then another question on follow-up referencing the gimbal video go fast incident. Can you just clarify, because to our understanding, the footage was actually cut off at a certain point, but what happens at the end of that video, just for those Americans specifically there that are wanting to know about the rest of that footage?
High fives on
Certainly,
the carrot
there
deck.
was some uncertainty or instability with the object. It seemed to rock a bit, and that's the last I had seen of the video. Much of the data that I would recommend be analyzed would consist of radar data that would provide precise kinematics on the object, as well as the fleet of objects that were operating nearby.
If the UFOs are rocking, don't come a knocking. So, what do we think about that, Gonky?
Well, that was, the 100-yard or meter large thing running at
It's like a football
running
field.
at yeah, like coming at security guards. I was trying to imagine that. I can't.
300 feet.
Yeah, like
That's a 747.
pretty sure-
right? Isn't that?
yeah. I mean, pretty sure they got like cameras and stuff at Vandenberg. That's like
Nope.
it's an Air Force
I
base.
doubt it.
Outward facing, yeah. At the gates for sure.
I mean, security there I know is probably decent.
Well, that's bigger than 10 by 15, right? So the one of them was 15 feet. This one's 300 feet.
yeah.
So they're shrinking
So-
their technology over the years. Is what I'm
Mothership.
thinking.
It's getting
No,
bigger as we go.
Why would the
One was,
mothership
one was
come
like
after
their
security?
Hawkeye, you know, one was like their Hornet. I don't know.
It's probably,
Hawkeye-
that's probably why the Hawkeye was lost. The Hawkeye one was like, what are we doing? Is this flight still going on? Like,
Am I
just-
still supposed to be pissing off these random airmen at the gate?
Yeah, I'm going to do a flyby. Is your radar down? I'm doing flybys. This is,
I mean,
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I thought that part of the whole testimony was, I don't know. It was all hearsay to me. You know, it's like he didn't see any of it. He just heard about it. I mean, now I've heard about it. Can I go to Congress? You know, I don't know.
Correct.
That part of it, I was
Gonky
like,
is on his way to Congress right now.
No.
The subpoena is en route.
Oh,
Keep
man.
me
How cool would
ethical.
that be?
no.
All right, here's your boy right here. Here
You
we
have
go.
direct knowledge, you've spoken people with direct
Elon
knowledge
Muskowitz.
that this imagery applies to crash sites, crash imagery.
I can't discuss that in an open session.
Okay? Do you have any information that the U.S. government is involved in a disinformation campaign to deny the existence of
We're in a
certain UAPs?
disinformation campaign and
I
everything.
can't go beyond what I've already stated publicly in my News Nation interview because it touches other sensitivities.
That's it right there.
What special?
So dude, I got heartburn with the News Nation thing, right? So we went on News Nation, and now we're in front of publicly in front of Congress. It just doesn't sit right, man.
Intel
all.
guys. Intel guys, man.
He's a GS-15 though. He knows better. Like if this is the thing, and I get it, you don't feel heard. You feel like the only way is to go on News Nation, which I'm not sure which channel that's even on, but the only way is to be on a cable news network versus an actual let the IEG do their thing first.
Right.
Which maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I've seen that before too.
Special access programs cover this information, and how is it possible that they have evaded oversight for so long?
See, that's a stupid question. Special access programs, which I loathe to even say those words in a sentence. Yeah. If you're asking these questions, I mean, this guy should know better. It's like, hey, we should go to the vault. Why are you asking stuff? Because the answer is going to be,
Can't talk about it.
I do know the names. Once again, I can't discuss that publicly and how they've evaded oversight. In a closed setting, I can tell you the specific tradecraft used.
All right. When do
wouldn't
you
even say
think
that.
those programs began, and who authorized them?
I just told you the answer. I don't.
I do know a lot of that information, but that's something I can't discuss publicly because of
All right.
sensitivities.
How much?
Again, so why are we in this situation?
Why are we having
Not
this
behind-
conversation in a skiff? Like,
Correct.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you want to really
Why are-
know,
Why
Play the radar
why
tape.
did what they should have done was have this
'Cause
privately,
it's not a
which I'm
distraction in a skiff.
well, like if this were legit, everybody would need to know, and clearance would be in the back, and they go, "Hey, we already knew about this. Oh, cool. Okay, well, let's see if this is a real problem." Because you're saying either no one knows or everyone knows. So what's the conspiracy? Is the government incompetent and doesn't know that the aliens are doing the alien things, or is the government incompetent and they're hiding it from the American public because
I think the moral of the story is the government is incompetent.
there it is. Hey, play the.
Taxpayer money has been invested in
there's-
these programs. Your knowledge.
Thank you.
I mean, we audit the Pentagon every year, and I've been here 5 years, and they failed the dadgum thing every year.
this is
Shocking.
Standard.
Lose over $1 billion a year, we think, and I was told
we lose
Department
it,
of
or
Defense
do we
maybe
just-
60% of their assets are unaccounted
You
for,
don't think
whatever the
they've
heck that
spent
means.
$50,000
In the
on a
public
hammer,
sector, you go
$20,000
to
on a
jail for
toilet.
that kind of crap. So tell me.
Yeah, I know when I'm a dollar off on my DTS travel voucher, I get hammered, but it seems
That's
like
true.
it doesn't work the
That
other
makes
way.
him
Yeah.
legit.
That is a
That's a
fact.
true
$600
statement.
worth of stuff on eBay now, you get a call from the IRS. So please,
They wouldn't let
what
me leave the
corporation?
last
Yeah, I don't know
squadron
the
until I paid
specific metrics towards the end of your question.
$6.69.
The specific corporations I did provide to the committees in specific divisions, and I spent 11 and a half
Brought to you
hours
by
with both
Brondo.
Intel committees.
I'm going to take.
Wait, he just says that. He spent 11 and a half hours with both Intel committees. He's already done this. So they already know these answers, and they're asking questions.
Yeah, I get the feeling that this is just a.
Theater.
Yeah.
you to specific instances around the Phoenix Valley, because that's where I live. And in '97, we had the
Typical
famous
politician.
Phoenix.
Can you talk
light
about
case. I don't know
my?
if any of you are familiar with that.
Yeah, enough about this. Let's talk about me.
There were two things that went along with that, and the explanation was military training range off Luke and the Barry Goldwater range.
Yeah, because they were dropping Lu-2
Do you know
flares.
anything different other than the official explanation of those lights?
No.
Only what's in the public vernacular about it. That was outside the scope of my duties.
You know why? I used to do this over Avon Park, Lake Placid. I would be capping. I would just be popping flares in a circle just to see if I could get the news to be aliens the next day. Because I was just bored in the
Speaking a lot about your. I mean, I guess Navy guys drop penises.
Dude, you just crushed a whole bunch of people's dreams, Mover. They're like,
I know, there's like half of Central Florida that's like, I saw the aliens, and it's Mover doing chaff, flare, chaff, flare, chaff, flare, low, out. Son of a. Sorry.
Now what do I do?
You've said that the U.S. has intact spacecraft. You said that the government has alien bodies or alien species. Have you seen?
Have you been probed, or have you
seen the
probed
spacecraft?
anyone?
I have to be careful to describe what I've seen firsthand and not in this environment, but I could answer that question behind closed doors. Yeah.
And have you seen any of the bodies?
Somebody close these doors.
That's something I've not witnessed myself.
Okay. And so with that being said, and the other statement that has been made that was intriguing to me it's intriguing because my view has been that we are billions of light years away from any other system. And the concept that an alien species that's technologically advanced enough to travel billions of light years gets here and somehow is incompetent enough to not survive Earth or crashes is
they're the billionaires.
Something that I find a little bit
Well, you don't
far-fetched.
send your varsity
With that being
squad
said,
first.
you have mentioned that there's interdimensional potential.
We do.
Could you expound on that?
Is
I'm
that
going to answer your
on the
first
moon.
question, and I'm here as a fact witness and expert, but I will give you a theoretical framework, at least to work off, to kind of espouse crashes.
What happened to the girl in the
regardless
background?
of
Replaced by
your
this
level
dude
of
with the
sentience,
tattoos.
right? Planes crash, cars crash. N number of sorties, however high, a small percentage are going to end in mission failure, if you will, as we say in the Air
13.
Force. And then in terms of multidimensionality, that kind of thing, the framework that I'm familiar with, for example, is something called the holographic principle. It derives itself from general relativity and quantum mechanics, and that is, if you want to imagine a 3D object such as yourself casting a shadow onto a 2D surface, that's the holographic principle. So you can be projected, quasi-projected from higher dimensional space to lower dimensional. It's a scientific trope that you can actually cross, literally, as far as I understand, but there's probably...
I literally
thousands of
just
PhDs
re-entered
that could
every
probably argue about
intel
that.
brief
But
I
you
was
have not
ever
seen
in
any
the military.
documentation that that's what's
Everyone.
occurring.
Only
This
a
is theory.
theoretical framework discussion. Yes.
Okay.
Only what I've read on Twitter, where they all talk about this stuff. Which
Could you simplify that for me? Just a little. What the
I
hell
need
is he
that in
talking
ones
about?
and zeros, my friend.
he's playing 4D chess when we're all in 2D space.
Several months ago, my office received a protected disclosure from Eglin Air
Was
Force
it you,
Base
Gonky?
indicating that there was a UAP incident that required my attention. I saw
It was
the
probably
briefing
me in a
regarding
T-38.
that
That's what they're
episode
like.
and
Hey, it's a
brought
four
with
ship
me
of 38s
Congressman
lost.
Burchett and Congresswoman Luna. We asked to see any of the evidence that had been taken by flight crew in this endeavor and to observe any radar signature as well as to meet with the flight crew. We were not afforded access to all of the flight crew. And initially, we were not afforded access to images and to radar. Thereafter, we had a bit of a discussion about how authorities flow in the United States of America, and we did see the image. And we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I am not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. And I'm somewhat informed on the matter, having served on the Armed Services Committee for 7 years, having served on the committee that oversees DARPA and advanced technologies for several years. When we spoke with the flight crew, and when he showed us the photo that he'd taken, I asked why the video wasn't engaged, why we didn't have a FLIR system that worked. Here's what he said. They were out on a test mission that day over the Gulf of Mexico. And when you're on a test mission, you're supposed to have clear airspace. Not supposed to be anything that shows up. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down. He said that his FLIR system malfunctioned and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection as you would typically see in a test mission. So I guess I'll start with Commander
Sounds like a horrible
Fravor.
test mission.
How should we think about the fact that this craft that was approached by our pilot had the capability of disarming a number of the sensor and collection systems on that craft?
Well, I think this goes to that national security side, and you can go back through history of things showing up in certain areas and disabling our capabilities, which is disheartening. And for us, I mean, like I said, it completely disabled the radar on the aircraft when it tried to do it, and the only way we could see it is passively, which is how he got that image. So I think that's a concern on what are these doing, not only how do they operate, but their capabilities inside to do things like this.
And how should we think about 4 craft moving in a very clear formation, equidistant from one another, in a diamond? In all of the phenomenon, perhaps, Mr. Grave, that you've analyzed, have we ever seen multiple craft in a single formation?
I have one particular case, and that was during the gimbal incident. The recording on the AT FLIR system shows a single object that rotates. You hear the pilots refer to a fleet of objects that is not visible on the FLIR system. And that was something that I witnessed during the debrief as part of the radar data on the situational awareness page. I would like to add, however, Congressman, there's a small bit of anger, I would say. I would feel that those pilots are still facing that difficulty in reporting this topic, and they don't have the tools to be able to mitigate this issue.
They just need to go on
It just
News
goes to
Nation.
show how serious this is and why this is such an important issue for our pilots and for our nation.
It was stated explicitly to me by these test pilots that if you have a UAP experience, the best thing you can do for your career is forget it and not tell anyone. Because any type of reporting, either above the surface or below the surface, does have a perceived consequence to these people. And that is a culture we must change if we want to get to the truth.
We've also.
So, Gonky.
Well, well,
Matt, go ahead.
I mean, Mover, you were there. They kind of when all this was, gaining
There
some
were
steam,
notems,
if you will. Right.
Yeah, there
and
were
then
notems,
remember,
there were.
we were talking about it, right? We got like an email or like, hey, if you see something, whatever, document it, right? I mean, we were all talking about it because they were seeing that stuff like Getz is saying right off the coast of, right where we used to fly. So, I mean, I can imagine if you tried to come out with something, if you had pictures and stuff, leadership would probably frown upon it.
Well, especially since you don't have a camera in the cockpit, so you're taking pictures with your cell
That could be
phone?
not allowed.
Frowned upon.
Could be, yeah. And you bring up a good point is I wonder what took the pictures that Getz saw. I wonder if he's talking still about a targeting pod. I mean, it couldn't be maybe
Well, he said it didn't work, right? So what else?
Yeah. Cell phone
is there? Yeah.
I mean, but
I just
that's
picture
tough.
a 4-ship of 2-foot T-38s trundling across the airspace, and they're like,
transponders off. Yeah, transponders off. It's like, who are these guys?
They're in a diamond formation, and the lieutenant's
best
trying
part of
to
that-
figure out.
The best part of that whole interview is Getz describing meeting base security.
Yeah,
At the
telling them
beginning.
that this
Yeah.
is what we do.
Let me tell you how this is going to work.
All right,
Yeah, I don't
Wombat,
know.
What do you think, man?
What aircraft was that?
They didn't
That
say.
last
So the test
So-
has. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not.
They have Vipers and Eagles and
Strike
the new
Eagles.
EX. They have the new EX, or I don't know if
So-
they did it this time. I don't know when it was done, but they had the EX mover there.
Can I hypothetical?
Sure.
You guys are going. You guys are going out on a test mission. Okay, you're a test flight, and you're going to take off and run your tests. What if you're not the tester? You're the testee for another program.
This could be good
to
book
see-
material.
Right?
I totally see what you're saying.
I think they would deconflict the airspace. I don't think.
I don't
there
think
would
they
be,
necessarily would have to. I mean,
understand what
so
Wombat's
the biggest
saying.
issue,
Yeah.
one of the things that bothers me about all of this is we don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have that technology. We don't have it. Nobody knows. The whole program is designed so
To
very
not
few
know.
people know the whole thing.
It's true.
You got a point.
And I will tell you from 20 wonderful years in the military that I have nothing bad to say about. If you, for an instant, think that two separate entities don't communicate to each other and coordinate with each other, you're a fool, because I sat on 4 deployments where we couldn't even coordinate on the same ship together. Like, let
These are
alone know what
wise
the Air
words.
Force is doing, what the Army's doing, what the missile guys are doing. So I'm not discounting Farva. I think that guy's fantastic. I'm not discounting that he
Who's
saw
Farva?
something.
Sex.
I'm not discounting any of that. What I'm saying is, and it kind of came to me when I'm listening to this guy, it's like, dude, that could have very easily been you're the person they're testing on, and it's somebody else that you don't know about. And that's okay.
I just.
I understand.
And it would make
From where,
sense
though?
to me that
From
when you
where?
brought that to your
England.
command leadership, they're like, because maybe the leadership's read in and they need to know because they're sending flights up against this.
But why wouldn't they tell the congressman?
They probably did.
Maybe
but
he's
hey,
not
this
read
is-
into Sector
Maybe he's
7.
not read in. Maybe
This
it's
is
there's
Program
things
X.
that, dude.
Yeah.
Again,
I see what-
not
that's-
saying there's
well,
not
that's a
aliens.
good-
I'm just saying there's a lot of things you can explain by just understanding how the military works and doesn't work within itself.
Right. Yeah.
And it is, I think the average American, and God bless you all for thinking this, but the average American thinks, I mean, it's that old joke of like, military grade, and a civilian's like, yes. And all of us are like,
We want civilian grade in the
I don't-
military.
Yeah. Can we get civilian grade? So again, I'm not saying that's what this
Yeah.
is. I'm not discounting this guy. I'm not trying to
Man, that's a
discount
good
any of
point.
these people, but I'm like, dude, there's two sides to every test.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe they're testing our equipment to see, hey, maybe
Maybe
we're
they're
testing our equipment to see what we can see and not see. Because guess
Yeah.
what? We know our capabilities compared to, say, our adversaries' capabilities, right? So if we have other capabilities that can then squash our capabilities and our capabilities are better than our adversaries, well, guess what? I don't have to test it against our adversary now because I know it's going to beat them. I'm just saying.
So they're
They
testing
did
against
that with
their
the
wing.
F-35. They did that with the F-35. I mean, when it was first coming out, they would put it in scenarios and not tell anybody.
Yeah, they did it
And
with the
see what they could
Raptor
do.
too, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there was red flags.
It's not
where it was like-
uncommon. Like, it's not uncommon. Like, I don't know why.
Well, the reason why this one's a little weird is because, the whole 80,000 feet surface underwater.
That's one comment.
80,000.
one thing.
These numbers are all radar derived. I go back to my original point about the Trons. There is nothing solid that says these numbers are factual. You saw with your Mark 1 eyeball. All they saw was weird things happening.
And something
And
on
that's-
the radar.
Well, the
and
boat
something
radar
on the
is
radar.
the boat radar is pretty tight.
It is.
They've got big
But again-
generators.
But again, who's to say they weren't testing the ships?
It's a Comp 2X.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.